We are not letting Aaron Rodgers off the hook today, but the problems are bigger than him in New York. We'll talk about it today here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
That's right. It is your team every day, and we thank you for joining us and making us your first listen. Welcome to Locked On NFL, where we use the local experts that know your teams better than anybody to let you know exactly what is going on around the league. Here's what we're going to talk about today. At the close of the show, we're going to talk about, something closing, and maybe that is the window for the 49ers and their chances to continue to be contenders. Right smack in the middle, we're going to continue to discuss the big dysfunction in Big D. And this is even more than the talk about Jerry. This is about have the players actually quit, because that brand really, really does mean something. And over the years, even when they were bad, they didn't seem like they quit. And I think that's what it is right now. But of course, at the top of the show today, as Julian Council said, it's the Jets. The Jets, and we will make sure that we discuss that for you today. But first, I got to let you know that today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Also, make sure you go and check us out and listen on Amazon Music. That's right, Locked On NFL on Amazon Music, to make sure you get all of the action. I'm with my brother from another mother, David Harrison. David, we got to start with some dysfunction. There's a whole bunch of dysfunction going on in the NFL around this time. The Jets, this is layered, man. This has a lot to do with the lot, and all of the rumors coming out about who's going to bench who and Woody Johnson and this guy getting fired. This has just been a total. This is an Academy Award winning documentary type motion picture of what dysfunction looks like.
Yeah, I can tell you. I can tell you who leaked the story that Woody Johnson wanted to bench Aaron Rodgers in week 4.
Come on with it. You know, we gossip here in the barbershop, man. This is where you find out everybody's business, dog. Come on.
It's Joe Douglas. Joe Douglas gets fired, and all of a sudden, the story that Woody Johnson wanted to bench Aaron Rodgers in week 4 gets leaked. Come on now. That is not a coincidence. Joe Douglas is out here trying to save his own butt. But here's the problem with Joe Douglas doing that. The problem with the New York Jets, as much as people want to put it on Woody Johnson, look, Woody Johnson is responsible. Sure. And you know this, Wig. Any leader out there knows it. There's a difference between being responsible for what's happening and to blame for what's happening. Woody Johnson is responsible for what's happening. But the person to blame for what's happening is the person that gave all the power to Aaron Rodgers. And the fact that Woody Johnson wanted to bench Aaron Rodgers in week 4 and had to be talked off that ledge by Joe Douglas probably leans to a little bit that Woody Johnson maybe was not 100% comfortable with giving Aaron Rodgers all this control over the franchise in the first place, and probably had to be talked into it by Joe Douglas.
The guy who needed to save his job,
the guy who said, let's give Aaron Rodgers all his control. You're to blame. You're also responsible because you're the general manager, so you're responsible anyway, but you're also to blame. And again, I'm connecting dots that I don't know are 100% true, right? But the connection seems to match just from what's happening behind the scenes. Look, the Jets situation is a mess, but if they realize what the problem is, and they is Woody Johnson, because Joe Douglas is gone, Robert Saleh is gone, that doesn't matter. If they realize where they made their biggest mistake, the Jets are still a salvageable team. They still have plenty of talent on this roster. And where they made their first biggest mistake, Wig, is they went out scouting results, not scouting processes.
Ooh.
And the copying of Tom Brady is going to haunt Aaron Rodgers for the rest of his life. Because basically that's what happened. Everybody said Tom Brady left the Patriots, went to the Buccaneers, won a Super Bowl. Let's do that again. Here's the difference, though, Wig. And I don't want to get too deep into the story of the Buccaneers and Tom Brady, but the Buccaneers went to Tom and said, hey, Tom, here's why we're a good football situation for you. Tom Brady actually, and a lot of people don't seem to realize this or remember this, Tom Brady came to the conversation with Jason Light and Bruce Arians, pitching them on why he was the right quarterback for their team.
Talk to me.
Okay. That is how this whole thing came together. Now, once they got together, the Bucs said, hey, Tom Brady, you're super smart dude, super successful. Who are some of your buddies? But then, even then, now Gronk was an easy button, just may happen, right? But Antonio Brown, don't forget, it took months for Tom Brady to convince the Buccaneers and Bruce Arians that Antonio Brown would work with that team. And but be damned if it didn't work. You know what I mean? Like, until jumping jacks off the Jet Stadium, it worked beautifully and got them a Super Bowl ring. The Jets wanted that success. The Jets, veteran retread quarterback coming to a new franchise, revive that franchise, make us even better. Aaron Rodgers wanted control. This was never about football. This was always about control. They went together thinking, we can just make this happen, not realizing all the steps in the process that made that successful transition for Tom Brady to Tampa Bay were completely skipped over. They went out there pursuing results, not pursuing the process. That's where the Jets messed up. That's where Aaron Rodgers messed up. That's where they need to correct this thing before they waste the careers of Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, and so many other talented players on that Jets roster.
Let's hear John Lee from Locked On Jets and see what his reaction is to this whole fiasco.
Yet another surprising move in a turbulent season for the New York Jets. Now the general manager's out. I'm John, the host of Locked On Jets, and the Jets have fired general manager Joe Douglas after 5.5 seasons. This team is in the middle of a disastrous season. None of their major moves have worked out. The Aaron Rodgers trade has been a catastrophe. Firing Robert Saleh did not fix this team. Neither did trading for Devontae Adams or signing Hassan Reddick. And it's the general manager who pays the price. Now, many of the major moves from this team have been dictated by ownership, not the general manager. But Douglas's record over 5.5 seasons is 30-64. He simply was not good enough. For more on the Jets, we'll talk plenty more about the firing of Joe Douglas and other topics around the team. Tune into the Locked On Jets podcast every Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The thing that bothers me about leadership, and look, we all make mistakes, right? And granted, Joe Douglas wanted to win. I'm sure Aaron Rodgers wanted to win to prove that Green Bay made a mistake and that he was right and he could do what Tom Brady could do. I'm sure Woody Johnson, who's won his whole life, wants to win, right?
Yep.
What happens, though, is you get put in that position because of astute moves. The Jets at one point had so much currency, so much draft currency, so much cap space, so many good young players. You got to continue to be who you are, man. And I hate to say this with Joel Embiid going through it. You got to trust your own process. If you don't, what happens is you get that close and then you start reaching for low-hanging fruit. You start looking for a quick way to do things. And guess what? To your point, that's not what Tampa was. Tampa had built that thing brick by brick by brick, and then they joined the guy who was willing to put his hard hat on and not just sit back in the trailer. He would get out there and he would shovel cement with you. And that's the difference. Aaron Rodgers seemed like he had something to prove to the quote-unquote haters. That's why he's on TV all the time, whereas Tampa Bay got a quarterback that wanted to show a bunch of young guys who were on the precipice of winning exactly how to do it based on his experience.
Yep. Look, hey, this is what's funny about these situations. And this is where like Wig, I'm a big advocate. Media literacy needs to be in every high school in America.
Yes, sir.
This is where media literacy really comes in, because go back to the leak. What did Joe Douglas leak? Woody Johnson forced Aaron Rodgers on me in this entire situation. No. That's not what leaked. What leaked? Woody Johnson wanted to bench Aaron Rodgers. Pay attention to what's not being leaked.
Yeah.
On top of what's being leaked, because what's not being leaked is incredibly important, because these situations, this is what you always have. You have, well, no, the owner did this and this guy wanted to do this. The coach wanted this guy. The GM wanted this guy. Bottom line is you had a whole lot of dysfunction from the top down anyway, and all of those guys are blamed for that. But pay attention to what Joe Douglas is leaking, and then pay attention to what he's not leaking, because what he's not leaking is actually even more important than what he is, because what he's leaking is what he's trying to not take credit for, not take blame for. Look, this Aaron Rodgers situation is a mess, because if Aaron Rodgers, now there's reports that maybe Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to play next year. So if Aaron Rodgers retires, all that dead money comes to roost all at one time. Now you got Devontae Adams on this team. The only reason he's here is Aaron Rodgers in the first place. And now you got a situation where he's not going to be in team. It's a mess that's going to take years to fix, to be quite honest with you. I do not envy whoever takes the next general manager and head coach job for this team. But I'll tell you right now, if the Jets want to start the process of getting the right processes in place, you got to look at Aaron Rodgers very bluntly and say, hey, dude, you no longer have control. Whatever you want to do with your career based on that, we'll deal with it. Dead cap money, be damned, we'll deal with it. You make your decision based on the fact that you no longer have control. You work for this team. You're going to be part of it or you're not going to be a part of it. That's up to you. Lance Newmark, Washington Commanders assistant GM, former executive for the Detroit Lions, 2 franchises that have built teams the right way. Lance Newmark, how much money is it going to take you to come here and fix this Jets mess? I'm going to give you at least 3 to 5 years to do it because I know it's a mess to begin with. Then that's how you start to fix this Jets organization.
That is how you start to fix it. I like the fact that you just swung into who should the Jets hire mode. You said something a minute ago. You talked about dead cap. There's a dead cap situation in Dallas, and you got all these dudes on TV talking about that the Cowboys should draft Shedeur Sanders so Dion can come coach the team, and then they can trade Dak Prescott. Oh, by the way, you already gave him like $90 million that's going to come bite you. So we'll talk about that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by Prize Picks. That's right, man. Prize Picks is the absolute truth. Prize Picks is the #1 daily fantasy game in America. You can get paid. All you got to do is go download the Prize Picks app today and use Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 bet. You think Jamar Chase is going to get more than 79 yards receiving? What about Patrick Mahomes, more than 1.5 passing TDs? See, that's 2 more thans, in my opinion, because all you got to do is go more or less. You can win you a little bit of Skrilla. That's right. Even if your team is bad, you get a chance to win some money. I'll say it again. Download the app today and use the code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Today's show is also brought to you and sponsored by Pre-Alcohol by Z-Biotics. That's right. Here's what it is. Pre-Alcohol probiotic drink by Z-Biotics is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's the blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Every time I have a prebiotic before drinks when I'm on vacation, I notice a difference the next day, and I can get back to that pool and that 100-degree heat without a problem because I had Z-Biotics. Here's step 1, drink pre-alcohol. Here's step 2, drink responsibly. Here's step 3, you enjoy tomorrow. Go to zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL to learn more to get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On NFL at checkout. Z-Biotics is back with 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money. No questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL at checkout for 15% off. We're running it down here on Locked On NFL in the barbershop, just like we always do. We used some key words when we were talking about the Jets. Dysfunction, oh yeah. Dead cap, that too. Who's going to be the leader? Oh, we discussed that too. You know what? If you close your eyes, you wouldn't think we'd be talking about the green fungus in New York. You think we'd be talking about the big star down in Arlington, Texas with the Dallas Cowboys. I want to play something that is the signal of dysfunction. When you start hearing guys like Landon McCool and Marcus Mosher speak like this about what they saw about a team, and then you put this in context with maybe their best players always doing podcasts, and then 2 of the other best players did a rap video while they're in the middle of this losing streak, and it tells you all you need to know about the Dallas Cowboys. Listen to this.
There was one time the Cowboys had to take a timeout because they had 12 guys on the field on special teams.
That was so ridiculous.
And then they had another goal line situation where they did get called for 12 guys on the field. It's just those little things have just kind of happened all year. Where it's at this point you almost have to laugh, even though there's nothing funny about it, right?
Yeah.
It's a bad spot to be in. And we talk about all the time what's best for the franchise and like, hey, you're probably better off long-term trying to get a top 5 pick. And I joke about getting Travis Hunter, all the time on Twitter, but like what you don't want to do is to establish a culture where losing is acceptable and common. And I don't want to say that we're there yet, but you see some of the effort and some of the faces on the sideline. And I do wonder, like, are we getting close?
I keep hearing stuff like Dion, Shador, Travis Hunter. And you know what? Those are all good players, good people, and can do a good job. The Cowboys need a bunch of offensive linemen, a bunch of defensive linemen. The last thing they need is another star-type player to mask the fact that you're landing at practice on a helicopter. You're talking about bottom line. You're at the Tyson fight if you're Jerry Jones. You can't hide behind your money in a football conversation. This is what it is. You're getting whipped on the field.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. What this Dallas Cowboys franchise honestly needs is a reset. That's what this Dallas Cowboys franchise needs. And I thought that it was coming. CeeDee Lamb obviously is a player that you can invest in to be a part of that reset. Micah Parsons, I believed, was a player that you could invest in to be a part of that reset. Dak Prescott was not. Simply because, it's not even so much all about talent level, but a lot of it is about age. Like at the end of the day, Dak Prescott can no longer be looked at as a long-term franchise quarterback for an NFL franchise. Like you can't trust that for the next 6-7 years, he's going to, one, be able to stay healthy enough, two, that his performance on the field is not going to hit such a steady decline that he's no longer elevating your team. He's now in some ways hindering your team. So what the Dallas Cowboys needed to do, Wig, was run out the rest of this season with Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott, both on contract years, see how this whole thing panned out, and then decide in the offseason, are we going to give Dak Prescott a new contract, or are we going to turn the page fully with a new head coach, new staff, and let them decide what we're going to do at the quarterback position? What they did instead is give Dak Prescott a fat contract that if they want to get out of it, we talk about dead cap. If they want to get out of this contract after this season, they're going to have to eat $150 million in cap space. Here's the problem. They only have $25 million of cap space next year. You know what I mean? Like, so now you're talking about a situation where you have to get whatever team you're going to trade him to. If you want to seriously talk about trading Dak Prescott, which is, again, the story is the Cowboys draft Shedeur Sanders, hire Deion Sanders to be the head coach, and they're happy, and maybe you find a way to trade back in and get Travis Hunter, which I don't see how you're going to do that without trading Micah Parsons. But that's neither here nor there. So the idea is you bring in Shedeur Sanders, you bring in Deion Sanders, you revitalize the Dallas Cowboys franchise, I'll tell you right now, I got problems with any team that drafts Shedeur Sanders for certain reasons. Dude's super talented, but that's a conversation for a whole different topic or different day. Mm-hmm. But now you've got to get a team to eat the majority of that contract that you gave Dak Prescott, which means you're getting nothing in draft capital. Like you're not going, this is a Jay Cutler all over again. You've got to now pay a team essentially to take Dak Prescott in that contract so that you can come start a rookie quarterback, which I know Jane Daniels is looking good. I know CJ Stroud did a really good job, but let's look at the history of rookie quarterbacks. Teams don't typically set the world on fire with rookie quarterbacks. And like you just mentioned, Wig, your offensive line is depleted. Your best O-lineman just suffered a pretty significant injury. I don't know if it's serious injury, but pretty significant injury. So now he's getting, tore up. Your defensive line is somewhat in shambles. Micah Parsons clearly is not happy with being a Dallas Cowboy right now. And CeeDee Lamb, I mean, the clock is ticking on CeeDee Lamb not getting paid enough to put up with this crap. Like the Dallas Cowboys, the major misstep in my eyes was giving Dak Prescott that contract because that secured your inability to fully reset this franchise next offseason.
They would have come out better making the contract fully guaranteed without that big bonus and not putting the trade clause in, because then if you trade, it just ticks me off, man, because now he can determine where he goes. Right. If he goes, he can hold you hostage. You're going to have to pay somebody. You might have to give somebody Michael Parsons just to take him. And then if you do draft Shedeur, guess what? Did you see him running for his life the first year he was at Colorado? What do you think is going to happen in the NFL? He's going to be running for his life again. See, it's all hype and no substance. And that's the problem with the Cowboys. Everything is about marketing and promotion, but you can't run from the grind.
It's about the result. not the process. Jerry Jones, just like Woody Johnson, and I don't care whose idea it was, who said what. Bottom line, Jerry Jones, Woody Johnson, both of them, they went searching results. They wanted to go buy results. You cannot buy results. The process is 1,000% important. You don't think Michael Parsons is sitting there salty that Dak Prescott got all that money and you're not giving him all that money? He's absolutely salty about that. You don't have a unified locker room. You don't have a unified organization. Nobody's on the same page. And now you've handcuffed your team. Yeah. Whoever your next head coach is, better love them some Dak Prescott. And look, and we talk about Deion. There's something that Deion Sanders has done very, very well that his haters will never give him credit for is take the right job with the right situation. Deion doesn't just jump into things and say, you know what? The PR looks good. The PR looks good for this move. The PR to Colorado, the Buffaloes, there's no good PR. Deion was the PR. There was nobody was giving Deion shine because CU wanted to hire you. No, like Deion was the shine. And that was the right situation for him. And he's done well with it.
And you'll never outshine.
Sanders is not going to just take any job.
And you'll never outshine the star. And I wanted to point to Washington for Dallas people, but they won't listen. That's like, you ain't taking no advice from your ops, right? So here, I'm going to play a little clip real quick. Here's a team, if you want to look at, that's doing it the right way. And I was even wrong about them. Take a listen to this.
And those pesky Denver Broncos, who are getting better and better quarterback play from rookie Bo Nix every single week. I've been trying to fade the Broncos all season long, but I guess you can't ignore them anymore.
Yeah, we have the Chargers 9th and the Broncos 10th. So there's a gap between those other teams and those two in Pittsburgh. We have Pittsburgh 13th. There's a gap there, but it's not a huge gap. It's not like out of the realm of possibility to imagine those teams going on a run in the playoffs, especially if the Steelers win their division and get home games.
Minus the Pittsburgh part, we'll go real quick here so we can get to the 49ers in segment 3. But I'll tell you this, he named Pittsburgh, he named the Broncos, who we really focused on, and he named the Chargers. All three teams just doing it the right way, man, with line of scrimmage play and defense and sound football, and they ain't worried about all of that other hype and all that hyperbole. Here's what we're going to do. Talk about the 49ers and their window that appears to be, if it's not closing, it's stuck. You know what I'm saying? It ain't going up anymore. We'll discuss that and maybe get into a little MVP talk here in the third and final segment on Locked On NFL. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by Hillsdale College. Never too late to start broadening your horizons and your mind. Instead of thumbing through endless content for hours and hours, how can you spend that time wisely to improve yourself? Well, our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, that's right, free online courses, including just a couple of examples: Constitution 101, the meaning and history of the Constitution; Introduction to Free Market Economics, The Great American Story, A Land of Hope, The Rise and Fall of the Roman Republic, and a brand new documentary-style course on Marxism, Socialism, and Communism. All of Hillsdale courses are self-paced so that you can start whenever and tune in whenever and wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just lectures and things like that for you to enjoy. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. HILLSDALE.edu/lockedon. All right, rolling through Locked On NFL here with David Harrison of Locked On NFL and Locked On Commanders. I used to say like 3 things when I called your name, man. You know, my man finally trimmed it down a little bit, right? Locked On NFL, Locked On Commanders. Our friends over at Locked On 49ers are asking some tough questions about the 49ers because all year we've been saying eventually they'll get it. They'll get it. They'll get it. They'll get it. Yeah. I want you to hear Brian Peacock and of course, Crocky. They had the normal guests on Locked On 49ers, and they discussed San Francisco. And these are the hard conversations that some people in Dallas might need to be having. Check this out.
After week 11 was the first time I started to feel like, oh, you know what? Maybe the Niners aren't going to flip the switch and turn this thing around because every other loss, they're still a good team and they're going to figure this thing out. Maybe they're not going to figure it out. Where are you right now with the San Francisco 49ers after 11 weeks of the season?
Yeah, you got to ask yourself, is this a good football team, right? I mean, they're not very good on defense. They're not very good on offense. They're not very good, terrible on special teams, right? So where is the good football, right? We just lost a third divisional game that we were leading inside 2 minutes in the fourth quarter. That's never happened since the NFL merger. Like, it's incredible how they're finding ways to lose these football games. And
So for me, talented people confuse a team being talented with being good. Being good is about this, David. How do you perform? That is it. Demonstrated performance. What do you consistently do when you need to do it? Not what you're capable of doing, what we think you might be able to do, or what you've done in the past. And I think the 49ers, it's not just injuries, man. I think that there's a little bit of fatigue and things are starting to look like we lost our opportunity.
Yeah, you know, it's been rough going for the San Francisco 49ers, right? Because the Christian McCaffrey situation, I think it kind of takes the wind out of your sails a little bit. You know, this is a player that means, you know, if there's an MVP outside of a quarterback in the league, Christian McCaffrey is definitely up there and on that list, right? So the hope that he was going to be back, because don't forget, man, like all through training camp and you know, the preseason, like the narrative coming out of San Francisco was, oh, he's going to be available. He's going to be available. He's going to be available. And then next thing you know, he's going overseas to probably get treatments that he can't get over in the States, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just to be able to play. And then you got the Brandon Ayuk situation and the drama associated with that and all the public part of it. And then, you know, he finally gets paid and then he gets injured and Debo's been injured. And I mean, it's just been one of those years, man. And here's what I'll tell you. I think saying the 49ers window is stuck is a very, very good analogy. I think the way that you unstick it, honestly, is to just have to be a little bit real. And this is where NFL teams really struggle, because if you're John Lynch and if you're Coach Shanahan, you look at this roster and look, the players are going to want to go out there and compete. Bottom stinking line, the players are going to want to compete. But the coaching staff and the GM, you have the ability to say, look, guys, clearly 2024 is not our year. Like, clearly 2024 is just stacked against us. But let's look at this. With everything going on right now, everything the Niners have gone through, everything that's stacked up against 49ers, they're one game out of the division lead.
Right.
So that says more about your division that you're in than it does your team. So if you take the control of the reins and you bite the bullet and you say, you know what, Ayuk's on IR. Brock Purdy, you're about to go on IR. Debo, you got that boo-boo, you're going on IR. Christian twisted his ankle, he's going on IR. Nick Bosa, bro, you ain't coming back this year. And let's go find out from these other players. Nobody's saying tank. Go tell these other players, listen, guys, 2025, we're coming back stronger, healthier. We got a little bit of cap space. We can free up some more cap space, and we got draft capital. And it looks like our draft capital is probably going to be top 15, maybe top 12, depending on how this thing goes. Who among you is going to be a part of that future? Go show us that in the rest of the season. And you know what? If we end up with the 18th pick, because you show us that you deserve to be part of that, we'll be okay with that. But the 49ers, you give the San Francisco 49ers the 18th pick in the NFL draft next year, they are going to be the best team in the NFC West in 2025. Hands down.
I don't doubt
49ers continue to try to pull at this thing and say, no, we can resalvage it. Well, we can recoup it. No, we can do this. You might end up with some injured players. You might end up with some injured egos and emotions that leak into 2025. It's a hard prospect, man, because you're asking a franchise to essentially say we're mailing it in one game out of the division lead. That's never going to happen. But being an unbiased, impartial, unattached person, you kind of look at it and say, bro, like, this ain't gonna happen for you this year. Best thing to do is restock for next year.
Yep, and taking that macro approach because of all those injuries to all of those players that establish what your ceiling is actually something that you need to think about. They did draft well with the Kamar kid at safety, Ronaldo Green. All of those guys are making contributions, and they're going to need Ronaldo Green because I don't think they're going to be able to keep Charvarius Ward in free agency. So here's what has to happen. I look at it from construction. If you can't raise your ceiling because it's already tapped out, but you need to close the gap, you don't need a permit to raise your floor. All you got to do is just add to it. You need a permit to make that ceiling go up, and because you got to hire, you got trusses, you got to go and get a crane, you got to do all, you got to lift the whole roof off of it. No, you don't need that to raise your floor. Now, ain't nobody gonna get mad at you if you just add another inch or two to the floor. And I think that's what we're talking about, is investing in the future and looking at the young players. MVP, I want to hit it real quick. It seems like this is the first time it's week to week. I mean, it was Derrick Henry or Lamar Jackson, and then Josh Allen runs on fourth down and finally beats Mahomes, and now it's him. And I'm just sitting there thinking, doesn't work that way. I'm still going with Lamar Jackson right now as the MVP, but do you have anybody interesting that might make a little bit of noise?
I think they're all very good options. You know what I mean? I think I still tilt my hand towards Lamar Jackson. I do think Josh Allen is a very interesting study because, truthfully, and you and I talked about this before the season started, I did not expect the Bills to be as they are. I thought they were going to take a step back. I used the phrase, they're not, you're not moving forward. Everybody else is. You're moving backwards, and the Bills clearly have not. Now, again, they've beaten the Chiefs in the regular season before. I still think I'm in that school of thought the MVP needs to be a postseason award. The MVP, not like for postseason players only, but that's where we really find out who the most valuable players are, is in the postseason when the pressure is turned all the way up. But it is what it is. Everything being equal, it's hard not to go Josh Allen, man, because Lamar Jackson's got Derrick Henry, and the Baltimore Ravens are not, the Baltimore Ravens have the same record as the Washington Commanders do. I know the Washington Commanders have surprised a lot of people, but if you were to tell people coming up to Thanksgiving that the Baltimore Ravens and Washington Commanders have matching records, that's not good. That's not good news.
Not good.
You know what I mean? That's not. So that's hard. But yeah, I think it's a multi-horse race, and I'll tell you what, man. If the Pittsburgh Steelers get the number 1 seed in the AFC,
don't you dare
about Russell Wilson.
Oh, no, I knew you were going to say that. How about me sticking in the same state, though? And I know you might not want to hear this because it's a division. Has anyone had a bigger impact on the perception and the way that their team than Saquon Barkley?
Yes. Do it. Hey, man, I'm all for it.
His numbers look just like Derrick Henry's, and we thought Derrick Henry was going to run for 2,000 yards, and he has he saved Nick Sirianni, I'll tell you that. I'll tell you this, something that we did by accident, but I'm glad we did it. When you talked about the Bills, guess what Buffalo did last year? They did. The reason why we didn't think they were going to be good, because they did what you said the 49ers need to do right now.
It's true.
All of those older guys, Jordan Poyer, all of those cats they had to say goodbye to, all of the big names, all of that stuff, and Stephon Diggs, and then they got all of these young dudes running around out there, and we don't know who the hell they are, but guess what? They know who they are.
They're working.
That's right. They know who they are. And I know who you are too, David Harrison. Every Wednesday here on Locked On NFL. Make sure you tap in also and check out Tyler Rowland every single morning with Locked On NFL in the morning. A double shot of espresso will slap you right upside your head and wake you up. And then once you stop staggering from that, you can just come ease into the barbershop and lay back and hear rumors and dots connected, like David Harrison just did this morning. All right, man, make sure you check out Locked On NFL everywhere you get your podcast. We appreciate you making us your first listen. Until next time, take care of each other, and we'll do the same.